All right, welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating philosophical argument that puts a common worldview under the microscope. Now, you see the title mentions atheism, but the argument really takes aim at a specific philosophical position called naturalism. It's a view that many, though not all, atheists hold. And honestly, it's an idea that makes you question the very foundation of what you believe, and more importantly, why you believe it. So, it all starts with a very fundamental question. I mean, this is a question that even the father of evolution himself, Charles Darwin, really struggled with. And it all boils down to trust. Not trusting other people, but trusting your own mind, the very thoughts inside your head. You know, back in 1881, Darwin wrote about what he called a horrid doubt. He was thinking, okay, if the human mind simply evolved from the minds of, well, what he called lower animals, why on earth should we trust his grand conclusions, right? If our brains are just, souped up monkey brains, can we really be confident when they start thinking about huge cosmic questions like where the universe came from? And that doubt, that horrid doubt that Darwin had, it perfectly sets the stage for the philosophical puzzle we're going to unpack today. It's all about this. Are our beliefs designed to find the truth, or are they for something else entirely? So to really wrap our heads around this, we first have to get clear on two big competing worldviews. They're at the very heart of this thing, theism and naturalism. And they paint two completely different pictures of what reality is. So let's quickly break down what these two perspectives are all about, because getting this distinction is absolutely key to understanding the argument that follows. Okay, so on one hand, you've got theism. This is the belief that a creator god exists, some kind of conscious, powerful being who's the source of, well, everything. The universe, the laws of physics, all of it. In this view, the supernatural is definitely real. Then, on the other hand, you have naturalism. This is the view that the physical world, nature, is all there is, full stop. Everything from a supernova to a human thought can be explained by physical processes. There's no supernatural realm.
Okay, and this is super important. The philosophical problem we're looking at doesn't come from naturalism by itself or from evolution by itself. Nope, it pops up when you combine naturalism with the idea of unguided evolution, the view that it's a completely blind, purposeless physical process with no God or anyone else steering the ship. For short, we're just going to call this combination N and E. This combination, this N and E worldview, forces us to ask a really critical question about what the whole point of the evolutionary process even is. So if you're a naturalist who believes in unguided evolution, then the engine driving everything is natural selection. And what does natural selection care about? Well, it obviously favors traits that help you survive and make babies, right? It's all about passing on your genes. But here's the million-dollar question. Does that process also happen to favor beliefs that are true? Is surviving the same thing as knowing the truth? And this right here is where the argument really gets its teeth. A belief's value for your survival has absolutely nothing to do with whether it's actually true. In fact, it's pretty easy to think of scenarios where a totally false belief would be way more helpful for survival than a true one. For instance, just imagine a bird that believes all caterpillars with a certain color are poisonous. Now, most of them might be totally harmless, even nutritious, but its false, super cautious belief keeps it from ever eating the one type that is deadly. That false belief is great for survival. Or think of an early human who believes every single rustle in the grass is a lion. He's wrong 99% of the time, but that one time he's right, his false belief makes him run and saves his life. So you see the crucial point here? Evolution selects for behavior that helps you survive. It doesn't give a rip about the belief that causes the behavior. As long as you run away from the tiger, evolution doesn't care if you believe it's a tiger, a demon, or just a really big angry cat. The behavior is what matters for survival, not the truth of the belief behind it. There's just no reason to think they're connected. Now, this whole disconnect between what's useful for survival and what's true, it's not just some interesting observation. It's actually the bedrock of a formal philosophical argument designed to challenge whether the N and E worldview is even rational to begin with. The philosopher who really laid this all out is Alvin Plantinga. He took this basic idea and turned it into what's known as the evolutionary argument against naturalism, or, if you want to sound smart, the EEAN. He basically laid out a step-by-step case for why he thinks this worldview logically defeats itself. Okay, so let's walk through the logic. Step 1. Just assume for a second that N and E are both true. Step 2. You have to admit that evolution is aimed at survival, not truth. Step 3, and this is a big one. If your mind is the product of that process, then you suddenly have a really strong reason to doubt that your brain is a reliable truth-finding machine. Step 4. This massive doubt acts as what philosophers call a defeater for every single belief you have. And finally, step 5, the knockout punch. That has to include your original belief in N and E itself.
So this idea of a defeater, it's absolutely central to the whole thing. A defeater is just a new belief or piece of information that gives you a good reason to throw out another belief you already hold. So, for example, let's say you believe there's milk in the fridge, but then I come along and tell you, hey, I just used the last of it for my coffee. My statement is a defeater for your belief. It undermines it. So what Plantinga is arguing is that the worldview of N and E actually contains its own defeater. Believing in N and E gives you a powerful reason to doubt the very reasoning abilities you use to arrive at that belief. It's like you're sitting on a tree branch and you start enthusiastically sawing it off from the trunk. So where does all this lead? Well, it leads to a really startling and honestly profound conclusion about whether this particular worldview can even hold itself together logically. I mean, just think about the implications here. If you accept a worldview that logically forces you to conclude your own mind is untrustworthy, you've just kicked the legs out from under everything you believe. Every argument, every conclusion, every single thought, it all becomes suspect. And this is the real kicker. That doubt can't just apply to some of your beliefs, right? It has to apply to all of them. And that must include the one belief that started this whole mess in the first place, your belief in naturalism and unguided evolution. So the final conclusion of the argument is that the combination of naturalism and unguided evolution is logically self-refuting. According to Plantinga, you actually cannot rationally believe it because the belief itself hands you an overwhelming reason to distrust the very mind you use to accept it. It's a worldview that, logically speaking, eats itself. And this leaves us with a huge, thought-provoking question to end on. What do we require from a worldview for it to be considered rational? This argument suggests that, at the very least, a worldview has to provide a solid reason to trust the minds we use to think about it. And if it doesn't, is it really a belief system worth holding?